What's up everybody, welcome to Rotor Riot Workbench. I'm Leslie RC, and today I'm going to show you how to install our Rotor Riot Edition AG01 Gimbals into the RadioMaster TX16S radio. To do this, you'll need a small Phillips head screwdriver and a 2.5mm hex driver available at rotorriot.com. Today we're installing the custom Rotor Riot Edition AG01 Gimbals, but the standard AG01 gimbal installation should be the same. To protect your gimbals and switches during installation, I recommend using a soft pillow because we're going to have to flip the radio upside down on the table, and this will keep your gimbals and switches from being damaged during installation. The first step is to remove the battery bay door and the battery. Be careful when pulling the connector out of the back of the radio when removing the battery. Next, you want to remove the module bay cover or any modules that may be in the back of the radio. We'll need to remove these 4 screws to remove the back of the radio casing. I like to use a magnet to hold my screws so I don't lose them. After removing the 4 screws on the back of the casing, we're going to remove the rubber hand grips on the sides here. Just get your fingernails in there and pull them off. And that will release the casing and allow it to come free from the rest of the radio. On the top of the radio, we need to use our 2.5mm hex driver to remove these 2 screws. Now the antenna is loose and the back of the casing can be removed. Finally, peel back the QR code sticker and separate the back of the case from the radio. Luckily, the way that the TX16S is designed, there are no cables in the back of the case, so you don't have to worry about damaging anything when removing this back cover. Set that aside and we'll move on to the next step. At this stage, it's always a good idea to take a photo of the wiring and the locations of all the connectors and gimbal locations for future reference. The next step is to follow the cables coming from the gimbals to where they're located on the PCB board and unplug them, right here and over here. Untangle and unravel the cords so that they're loose and ready to come out with the gimbals. Pay close attention to the fact that one of the gimbal's vertical axes springs back to center and the other one does not. Be sure to place the new gimbals on the correct side of the radio corresponding to the orientation of your radio. Also notice that the gimbals are oriented in a way to where these metal bars are on the outer edges of the radio. Be sure to insert the new gimbals in the same orientation. Next, all we need to do is remove 4 screws from each gimbal, remove and replace with the new gimbal. If you need to, you can remove these 2 screws from this potentiometer and pull the potentiometer out of the way to give easier access to the 4th screw. Remove the gimbal and the metal orientation piece in order to make room for the new gimbal. Since this is my aileron elevator gimbal, I will be replacing it with the one that springs back to center. It should line up and lock into place, then you can reinstall the 4 screws. And repeat the process on the other side. Now that both gimbals have been screwed down, reroute and plug the cables back into their connector. When plugging these cables back in, be sure to notice the orientation of the connector. Be sure to insert it in the correct orientation so as not to damage the pins in the board. Also be sure to reroute the cables so that they don't get pinched in any of the moving parts. Now that your gimbals have been installed, it's time to reassemble the radio in reverse order. When reinstalling the backplate, be sure that these pins do not get damaged, as they have to go through a slot in the back of the case. As you're reinstalling the back cover, be sure to line up the slot to those 5 pins so that they don't get bent during reinstallation. Line up the pins and gently slide the cover back in place. Be sure that everything lines up around the edges and locks into place. Now we're going to reinstall the 4 screws on the back of the casing and the 2 screws on the top of the radio. When installing the 2 screws on the top of the radio, be sure to lock the antenna connector back in place so that everything lines up properly. The back edge goes in first and the front edge goes in second. With everything locked in place, go ahead and reinstall the 2 final screws. Now that all the screws are back in place, we can go ahead and reinstall the module bay cover or any modules that may have been installed in your radio, the battery, and the battery bay door. When installing the battery, be sure to orient the pins correctly. If done properly, the red lead should be on the left, just like that. To reinstall the battery bay door, press it in place and slide forward, locking it in place. And reinstall the hand grips just by pressing them back into their slots. With a little bit of finagling, you can get them right back in place. And that's how you install AG01 gimbals into your RadioMaster TX16S. Before you can use your new gimbals, you'll need to calibrate them. I'll have a separate video explaining how to do that. There will also be additional videos available teaching you how to set up this radio and adjust the gimbals as well, and they'll be linked in the description. Thanks for watching, guys. If this video was helpful, be sure to like and subscribe so you can see more videos like this. I'm Let's Play RC, and we'll see you next time on Rotor Riot Workbench.